Welcome back to another video at Gun Traders Australia. Today we have some really exciting stuff to bring to you. It's going to be a two-part series. We're here at Owen Guns in Gympie. We are being given the distinct privilege of being given access to their museum, and then we are also going to be doing a bit of a walkthrough of their shop and something really exciting that we will flick to in our next episode, so make sure you stay tuned. We're going to go in. Shall we go? All right. So we're going to look for the gentleman by the name of Jason, who's going to be our tour guide for today.
Good morning everyone, how are we all?
Good morning.
They're just our friendly staffies.
All right.
Would you just like to have a look through the museum?
Lovely.
Let's go for a tour. Come on in.
Oh, wow. You give me the nod. All right, we're here with Jason today.
Good morning everybody.
So Jason's from Owen Guns. Can you just give us a little bit of a background on yourself? How long have you worked here? What got you into the industry before we jump into all of the other cool stuff that we're about to be shown today?
I started work for Owen Guns back in 1993, yes, before most of you people were born. I've always had an interest in firearms, not just their use, but the historical and their design aspects. Other than that, no. This is my happy place, this museum. Gympie has been very good to us with it. We get a lot of people like yourselves coming in to have a look through the museum. The other half will sit outside. They'll end up coming in because you've spent too long in here and are quite impressed with the artistic design. Ron's daughter Meg's, young lady out there, she's the one that's put the artistic flair into it and set it up how it is.
She's done an amazing job.
Thank you, because if it had been me set it up, I would have done it like a library, because that's how my brain works, but Meg's has put artistic flair into it, and yes, we get a lot of people come and say thank you very much for taking the tour. This wall was set up in a chronological or time order sequence. We started off with the earliest style of firearm that we have on the left hand side, which is roughly the 1700s. It's a brown vest pattern. Flintlock, muzzle loading, musket. Then of course we've got an older style of firearm. After we built the wall, we've got a matchlock down there, which predates the flintlock. But without going and reorganising everything, we just had to make room. So for example, one of the things I like about the flintlock is a couple of terms that old people like myself use. Don't get caught napping on the job. Don't go off half cocked, and you're just a flash in the pan. Napping doesn't mean sleeping. Napping is the shaping of a flint to make it work properly. So when a soldier was caught napping on the job, it means he was ill prepared for the task at hand.
Wow, I did not know that.
The way that flintlocks work is you have to put powder in the pan, which is what gets ignited by the flint, which then sets off the charge in your firearm. So if you've accidentally tipped your firearm or it gets wet, the powder's not going to work. You'll get the flash in the pan from your flint, but your gun doesn't go off. So you all show no performance.
Yep.
And the firearm has a half cock and a full cock. It can't go off on half cocked. So don't go off half cocked doesn't just mean know the whole story. It's firearms related. So as we move along, we come down through the eons. So we started off with muzzle loading only, flintlocks. Then we got to percussion caps, evolution. From those we went to cartridges. About 1868 off the top of my head I think is when we got cartridges. So they modified the muzzle loading firearms that we already had. We're talking about firearms like 2.6, 2.4 and 3.577. They were muzzle loaders converted over to take cartridges. They modified those to bring them up to speed. Then by the time we get to, I like firearms 2080 and 2588. They're about 1880s. They are purpose-built as cartridge firearms. That style of firearm is what the English were using during the Zulu War. That's also what the government was using during important things like the 1891 Shearers Strike, which is important to Queenslanders and fans of Waltzing Matilda Pom. Please do your research on that.
So, the year of the 2080?
1886, around that sort of period of time.
Yep. So 1886 they were using cartridge?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Not much has changed. As we get down a little bit, I'll try and point a few things out and give you my bias. So they were purpose-built cartridge guns, no muzzle loading facility, but single shots.
Yes.
So now we get down to firearms like 3.677. That was introduced in the military service in 1895. That was manufactured in Austria by Steyr. Steyr is a company that's still going.
Yep.
It uses a Mannlicher style clip, which we will have a bit of an example for you later. It's a straight pull. So instead of having to lift the bolt up like we do on a conventional firearm, it's straight pull. 1895 we've had those.
Wow.
We'll talk about that rifle again on the other side of the room. And more importantly, pistol 2993. Introduced into service in 1896 by the Morza Company. Because firearms...
Morza Company?
Morza, they're still going today. Yes. Because firearms were generally tasteful looking, aesthetically pleasing firearms, and a lot of people thought that was a gauche design, they referred to it as a broom handle. Because that's what the grip looks like, a broom handle. So it is colloquially referred to as the broom handle Morza.
Right.
But 1896, we had semi-auto pistols.
1896.
Just the other day. When we get down to firearms 0111 and the firearm next to it 2100, 1893 Morza and the number 1303. Just about everyone will be familiar with the number 1 Mark 330. That's its older cousin.
Wow, okay.
Those two firearms were used during the Anglo-Boer War, 1898 to 1901.
Yep.
The Morza rifle was a major change to everything else because it used an internal magazine, exactly the same as what we still use today. So nothing about that firearm has realistically changed since 1893, other than how long it takes to make it or the material it's made out of. So instead of taking half a dozen qualified workmen, craftsmen, a couple of weeks to make a rifle, we can do the programming on our phone now basically and have it churned out.
Yep.
The 303, the major change from it was instead of having that 5-shot internal magazine, has a detachable 10-shot. So from there, nothing else has really changed.
The thing, and I'm a bit of a stock weirdo.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the grain on the stocks.
Timber, yes, beautiful firewood. Keep you warm in winter.
But like the space between the ridges and
Well, back then they still had forests.
That's right.
They only had walnut, you know what I mean? They only had quality pieces. Like even the 303s, most of the very early ones, they were all high quality timber.
Yep.
The Morzas weren't necessarily designed as a military firearm, they were designed for hunters, living off the land. For example, I talked before about the Boer War.
Yes.
Boer is an Afrikaans word for farmer.
Right.
So that's all the Boers were, was just farmers.
Yep.
And they lived off that. If they didn't have that, they'd go hungry.
Yeah.
They didn't have a McDonald's to go past. So not much has changed in that aspect. Whereas for me, if you have a look at flight, it was about 1903, the Wright brothers did the heavier than air flight. We've been to the stars and back.
Yeah.
So in that same epoch, we haven't really changed. Cars haven't really evolved, but flight and medicine. So yeah, not much has changed in this world.
They got it right back then.
That's exactly right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
So then we get down to the end of this wall and we're into the 1900s, very early 1900s. America went the lever action road, Europe went the bolt action road. So in 200 years, we've gone from front end loaders to lever actions with 10 or 15 shot capacities on some of them. So for example, just over the fence a little bit, we've got two brass framed Winchesters.
Oh, wow.
We've got a rifle and a carbine. They are original Winchester 1866s. Both of those are chambered in the 44 Henry cartridge, which is a rimfire round. The Henry Rifle Company was in existence before Oliver Winchester tried getting into the sport. He couldn't beat them, so he bought them out and shut them down. And to this day, Winchester still put a H-head stamp on the back of some of their rimfire ammo. You never thought about why they put a H on the back of something that's made by W. So that was the 200 years of evolution. Now, we've finished with the wall of chronology. Now we get into World War I, including the belt-fed machine gun on the bottom here. So this encapsulates both his, hers and ours. It's all sides of the fence. Now that belt-fed machine gun is a patent 1908. It was built in the Spandau factory in Germany. And when you get a chance to have a look, that little grey bottle that's attached to it by an umbilical is a water bottle. It's a sustained firepower, it's a heavy machine gun. So when the barrel heats up in that big shroud over the barrel, it generates pressure, which then pushes water around like a radiator.
And what year is that?
1908 that was introduced.
So innovative.
It's an American design. Hiram Maxim is the guy that designed it. And like all good capitalists, just sold his design to whomever would pay for it. Because, you know, back in 1908, we weren't at war with each other. Now, one of the cool things for me, second, third and fourth firearms from the top, they're Russian Mosin Nagants, introduced in 1891. One of those is built...
I haven't heard of them.
Okay, longest serving military cartridge, the 7.62x54 rimmed,
Right.
longest serving, introduced in 1891, still being used today in their belt-fed machine guns and in their sniper rifles.
Yeah, right.
One of those Nagants was built by Remington, one of those was built by Westinghouse in America. Yep, the same people that make your fridge, freezer and washing machine. Because once again, they're a manufacturing company. Whether they made washing machines or firearms, it's all milk for the mill.
Manufacturing's manufacturing, isn't it?
So now I'd like to point out pistol 3502. We talked about it just before. That's the Morza 1896 broom handle. The pistol just below it is the same pistol, but you can connect a buttstock to it. So a farmer could either have a pistol for work or put the buttstock on it to use it as a carbine if he needs a little bit more accuracy. And for those ladies that like to fashion accessorize, the buttstock is also its holster. So the pistol goes into the buttstock. So the butt could be sitting there on the side of the rider's horse, pull the pistol out, connect it on. It's all one thing.
And accuracy?
Accuracy is a relative term. If a farmer only needs to hit a hog, for example, then it's accurate for that. Not something you'd go and put into a 500 metre bench rest event, but accuracy is a relative term.
Yep. It does the job.
Exactly. So that's World War I. Now, from this apex or pinnacle, through here, we're going to talk about World War II. Up to this apex. The night vision headgear and the plastic linked blanks, that's not World War II, but everything else in this section is. So we have some famous iconic firearms, like the Thompson 27 submachine gun, affectionately referred to as the Chicago typewriter, because during the Prohibition years in the 1920s, that's how the mafia sent all its messages, just gunned everyone down. So for us romantics, it's also got an important part, because during the Prohibition years, Al Capone is a well-known gangster. He was trying to work out how they could evenly share up all of Chicago between the different mobs. So we figured, let's have a round table meeting and let's sort this out, because Chicago's big enough. So they all went to this warehouse to have a meeting. Al sent his boys around dressed up as cops with those things and killed everyone. Oh look, it's all mine now. I fixed the problem. So Valentine's Day is an important day for all of us to remember how to fix your problems. Other iconic firearms are things like the Australian designed and manufactured Owen gun. All the Owen guns, all the real Owen guns in the world, all came from Lysart's Metalworks in Port Kembla, New South Wales.
Oh, wow.
That's where they were all made.
That's cool.
And the history to those is definitely worth looking into for yourself, because the backstory, how Evelyn got treated by the government, it's a sad story.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Other iconic firearms, if I can just turn you around. The one that's got the bayonet sticking off of it, that's an American M1 Garand. We've all heard about the Garand thumb and things like that. It had more problems than Flash Gordon, but it was the evolution start for the Americans to get into that style of firearm. It used an 8-round spring-loaded clip, which flings out when it's empty, makes this hideous sound, so everyone knows that dude's out of food. Let's go find him. Yes. So yes, this is World War II. This section here is mainly military firearms. It's not particular to any one country or any one period of time. We spoke about the Spandau 1908 pattern machine gun just before. We're going to talk about this is its younger brother.
Right.
This is a Vickers, same pattern, just built in England by the Vickers company. Okay. This is World War II. They'd learned through use that they need to have a larger shroud around the barrel and greater volume of water.
Right.
Enables them to have longer periods of sustained fire. Now, we're all familiar with the jerry can that we use for carrying our fuel. That square tin, the same as what you buy your olive oil and everything in, that's what most people were using as their fuel tins, their oil tins and everything. They're very thin, weak, they damaged easy, they were hard to use. So we stole the design off of the enemy, which in World War II was called jerry, which is where the term jerry can comes from, because it is literally the can that they were using, didn't have to change much except the paint job.
Wow.
So yes, next time we use a jerry can, we'll thank them.
Yes.
So yes.
My eye has caught the scope.
Okay. Excuse me. That is very early Russian night vision. It would not actually go onto an AK-47. It would go onto something like an SVD, the Dragunov, their sniper rifle.
Yep.
But we don't have one yet, so we've put it on an AK. So this, including the rocket launchers and everything like that, this is mainly military firearms, but not any one particular epoch. If I may point out, the Bren gun mount. This is a Bren gun, World War II up to and including Vietnam conflict. The mount that it's on is set up in its anti-aircraft stance. Later on, in just a few moments, we'll see the exact same tripod, but in its base mount. That's what I was working on fixing before. So even back then, they worked out that we don't want to have 64 different tools. Let's work out how to make one thing do 64 different jobs. Now this corner panel, this is set up for target shooting or competition shooting. And if you have a good look at the firearms, you'll see most of them started out life as military firearms, because the civilian market didn't have money to go and design rifles and build rifles. So when the wars were finished, the firearms got sold off and got repurposed into competition rifles. The picture in the background is an the picture in the background is an actual event. That's a running deer competition shot in Wimbledon in England. You'll see up in the back top left-hand corner a white-shaped deer and a black-shaped deer.
Oh, wow.
Henceforth, the high-tech technical name, running deer.
Yep.
Which leads us to the firearm in the box just in front of it. Yep, you're right. That actual rifle, not just one like it, that very rifle competed in the Melbourne Olympics in 1956.
So this actual
That
rifle.
very rifle was used by the Hungarian team. The picture of the bloke holding it is the guy that used it at the Olympics. I would like you to have a look at the front sight, if you can. There are 2 front pins. It has a standard V-notch for the back, but 2 front pins. Insert in the comments below what you think the 2 pins are for. Can you guys tell me what the 2 pins would be for? You're shooting running gear competition. It's built-in lead. For all you young people watching, math is important. It has real-world consequences. Because the target is an exact size and it's traveling at an exact speed and you're at an exact distance, it's triangular math. So the right-hand pin is set up so you put it on your target, and by the time your projectile gets to it, that's where the target will be. The left-hand pin is for a left-hand moving target. The shooter needs to hold on target to get the right speed, so it's got the lead built into it. In 1956, they were building that math into the firearms. I can't hit a clay pigeon with a shotgun to save my life, but they did the math for it.
Yep. And it's that exact science,
yes,
isn't it? Because
yes.
All things are the same, so...
If the target was to travel 1 foot per second slower or faster, your math is out. If you were to stand 1 foot closer or further back, your math is out.
Yep. But when all things are relative,
yes. Yeah.
It works.
Yes. And yes, the Martini cadets that were done up for teaching cadet soldiers were repurposed into things like 22 Hornet, 218B, 218 Mashburn B for all the different competitions. So then we get to the next corner panel. This is where my English will let me down. All firearms in Australia are restricted. These firearms have a higher restriction. So are they more restricted, or they're just restricted? The long arms are restricted because they are semi-automatic. The pistols are restricted because their barrels are too short or their magazines are too long. The wheel of semi-autos with the big magazines, they're 7.62 by 39 semi-auto. They're called May guns. They were built in China. Those May guns are what we just saw over on the other wall with a night vision scope.
Right, okay.
Essentially, but built on semi-auto only. They've got a longer barrel, they've got a target style sight, and their trigger is set up for that purpose. Big Ron from here, when he was trading in guns in China all the time, said this is what I want. That's what they built for him, because we were allowed to have semi-autos back then, and he called them May gun. He named them after his daughter, Megs, the one that put the artistic flair into here. So yeah, she's got skin in the game.
Story.
Yes. Once again, it's a $2 rifle with a $200 story.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Are these guns here the same one that's open here?
They most certainly are. The black pistol that you see used as a fence around all of our display are 9mm semi-automatic pistols designed and built here by us.
That's cool.
They were based on Owen Guns, submachine gun magazines. They are open action, which is different to all the other semi-autos that most people are familiar with. We started manufacturing these late 1990s, early 2000s.
Yep.
By the time we got them out on sale and everything, just after that, the laws changed regarding barrel lengths and magazine capacities. So our pistol is not compliant for club use because our barrel is too short and our magazine is too big. So that's why we've got so many of them. Because when we built them, we were hoping to be able to sell them for decades and decades and decades.
Yep.
Just plans changed.
Yep.
So yes, so we use them as a fence. Now just be careful behind you because there's a couple of little kids lying on the floor there. One of which is a repurposed boys anti-tank rifle. It was rechambered into 50 BMG for long-range target shooting. And we'll see your boys in a moment. And the other one is a Japanese World War II anti-tank rifle.
Japanese?
Yes. That one was recovered up in New Guinea. It took 4 people to carry it, and the rest of the fire team to use the spare ammo and everything. But yes, cartridge was very effective against it, just the firearm took a lot of work.
Yep.
Yeah. But we'll look at a boys in a moment and you'll see the vast difference between the two items. Then this psychedelic wall is just firearms that you and I owned, that normal folk owned before the legislation changed.
Yep.
And there's a firearm I'd like to ask people about. The firearm is number 2428. It's manufactured by Winchester. It's a single shot 22. And what can you tell me about the firearm that makes it funky? Now Winchester's the only brand that I know of that did this concept. So I could be wrong, I have been wrong before. Nobody else has done it. But, okay, you can say now, because yeah, what's funky about the firearm?
There's no trigger.
Exactly.
I can't see any way to fire it.
It's called a thumb trigger model. So you chamber around, you'd pull the cocking piece back behind the bolt. Then with your thumb, you would depress the button behind the cocking piece to discharge it. Now some people would say, oh, but that's for left-handed people. But your bolt handle's still on the right-hand side, so no, it's not. It's just Winchester trying to come up with something different to be different to everyone else.
Do we know how successful it was?
They didn't make it for long. Yeah. So
I've never seen one like it.
no. And another firearm, which two people I know of have done, the firearm number is, let me find it now. To the left a little bit, it's 2018. I can't find the other one. It's made by Winchester. It's a semi-automatic, single shot. So it's an open action design. You would pull the bolt handle back, you would insert one cartridge into the chamber. When you fire, the bolt rides forward and sets the cartridge off.
Yep.
Cartridge blows the action back, ejects the cartridge underneath. You then insert another cartridge one at a time. Semi-automatic, single shot.
That's really cool.
And that was firearm number 2018. The Belgians also did one. It was manufactured by Ancients Pfeiffer.
I find it very interesting how there's different stocks on pistols.
We'll get to that one in a moment because we've got one in the closed up position, which takes us back to the concept of the broom handle Mauser having a stock on it to use as a pistol or a carbine for a little more accuracy. This is the Bren gun mount that we spoke about just before. That's it set up poorly in its land flat base use. That then, like a transformer, transforms into an anti-aircraft mount.
So the rifle mounts.
The rifle would mount, if I set it up properly, like that, into that hole there.
Yep.
The shooter would stand behind it there to have
Swing.
defilade over all that, yes. Or you transform it into the aerial mount that we saw just before for taking on airplanes.
Yeah, it would have been powerful.
Yeah, it's chambered in the 303 British cartridge, so she had some get up to it. And once again, if that's the only thing you've got, when opportunity presents itself, that's what you use. You don't wish, oh, I wish I had a bigger gun, or I wish I had a belt fed. You operate with what you've got.
Out of necessity.
Yes, yes, a bad day over there is not like having a bad day here. Adolf Topperwein, Adolf, I can't remember his wife's name. They were demonstration shooters for the Winchester Rifle Corporation. The one shoot that I remember was 1907. It was San Antonio, Texas.
Yep.
He shot for 9 days solid, went through 75,000 rounds of rimfire ammo. His statement before and after shoots, if you want to be good at what you do, you practice. I'm grateful because I was getting paid to practice every day, but that's what he did. This is our pistol display. Can anyone tell me what the firearm is up on top in relation to what is today? Today's the 22nd of November. Pretend it was 1963. Today's the day President Kennedy got assassinated.
Oh.
A 6.5 Kakano. Yeah. And then our pistol display. The pistols are just an eclectic collection. There is nothing specific or country or time period. But you asked before about one of the firearms that was on that wall is a double-barreled pistol with a small stock. The stock in this case is folded up underneath it.
So it like screws around like that?
Yes. The pistol was manufactured by a company called Marbles.
Never heard
They
of it.
still make long-range TAM sights for single-shot rifles. If you've watched the movie Quickly Down Under, for example, the long-range sight he has on his rifle was more than likely manufactured by Marbles.
Right.
That's the style of sight they do.
What's the advantage of having a pistol with two barrels?
Okay, one of those barrels is chambered in 22 long rifle, the other one is chambered in 44-40, which was a popular larger caliber handgun. So Marbles also did loads for that 44-40 called Game Getter, and they loaded them up with shot.
Right.
So it turned into a small 410 shotgun, essentially. So a farmer could have that once again in a small scabbard on the side of their horse, pull it out, use it to euthanize a cow as you're running up beside it, or turn it into a carbine if you need a little bit more accuracy. I apologise, I do not know the year they were, but they have a safety catch built into them. If you can get a nice picture of the hammer, for example, the part of the hammer that is currently touching the back of the handgun, that will push up for the top barrel, that will push down for the bottom barrel, or in the middle for safety. That is how they selected which barrel they shot, and also how they manipulated the safety catch. To open the action on that one, you pull the trigger guard back, like on a Boyto shotgun or on a Thompson Contender pistol.
Yep.
So it would. Oh yeah, it folds forward.
Yeah. If I may, I'd like to point out another pistol in here that really turns me on. But it's this brass flare pistol. World War II issue. You might be able to make out on the side of it, CSR, and below that Sydney, the year 41. It was made in 1941 by CSR in Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone know what CSR is in Sydney? What did you want in your tea that I couldn't provide for you?
Sugar.
Well done. Colonial Sugar Refinery.
Oh.
So when the war was coming, the government said, we need this made. Who can do that?
Yep.
We need this made. CSR put their hand up and said, we've got a workshop, we've got talented staff. So they made several thousand flare pistols that were used during the war and then still afterwards, because the Navy and Merchant Navy and everyone else need flare pistols.
Yep.
Now just below that, that's the boys' anti-tank rifle we spoke about just before.
That is so ridiculous.
That was Commonwealth, as in Britain, Australia. That's what we used as an anti-tank rifle.
Right.
Nowhere near as, the cartridge was nowhere near as effective as that Japanese one, but the average soldier could at least run with it, move to a different position to re-engage, as opposed to having to leave that massive big one behind because you didn't quite get the job done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about the compromise, isn't it?
That's exactly right. Yes.
You don't need 4 people to carry that one around.
That is correct. Although, keeping in mind that you would not be an uncommon size for an English soldier early on in the piece, the rifle weighs twice as much as you do, and it's probably a little bit taller than you without being funny or rude. So yeah, could you imagine lugging that around? But they did, and I'm grateful for them for doing it, because of things like that, you and I can stand here now and have silly banter because men did that.
That's right.
And then just behind us we have a collection of shotguns, mainly side-by-side shotguns. This shotgun I'd like to point out to you, I think is a darn good design. It was manufactured in France by the Darn Company. Instead of being a break barrel like most of us are familiar with, the trigger pack and action rotate. I do not know the reason they've done that. Once again, could be like Winchester, just got to do something different for everyone. But Darn is still going. They still make some strange and unusual design shotguns. Just that's an early one for them. This particular one here, 0350, is the odd one out. It's the under-over shotgun, the rest are side-by-sides. This particular one was manufactured in Germany by a company called Krieghoff. Krieghoff is still in business today. This firearm was actually manufactured for Mr. Harry May. The gentleman that brought it in was Mr. Harry May's son. He brought it into the museum to show us, and he explained to us that his dad had this gun made back in like the 1920s, and they only made a very small number of them and things like that. So the museum acquired it, sent it over to Krieghoff in Germany, where they were kind enough to refurbish it for us and sent it back. They confirmed that when they made that, it was in a production run of 10 shotguns. It was the first production run that they'd ever done of under-over shotguns. They are one of the first, if not the first, under-over mass-produced shotguns. This is one of 10 guns in the world. When we sent it to them, they can confirm that they only knew of 2 others that existed, strangely enough, in their private museum.
Wow.
So at that point in time, that made this one of 3 known survivors in the world. So if you've got a Krieghoff shotgun sitting under Nana's bed or something like that, and it's an under-over and it looked like that, get in touch with Krieghoff. You could have some coins. Rarities are out there. They just need to be found before it's too late.
So talking rarities.
Yes.
What's that one? Clearly rates quite high.
It does.
What other rare ones have you come in and scratched your head and gone, holy dooly?
How do they work? That darn shotgun we just looked at, that took us quite a few minutes to work out how to prove it clear, because first thing we do when a firearm comes in is always prove clear. Not being the brightest light bulb in the pack, I'm sitting there trying to break it, and I nearly did. And it wasn't until we noticed that the action twisted. Another one like that, but there's a revolver in our display cabinet where the top of the barrel is at the 3 o'clock position.
Yep.
When that revolver come into us, it was in a pile of rust that looked like a cow patty. In all honesty, the rust pile was this big. So we stuck it in molasses for about 2 or 3 months to eat through the rust. When it come out, it looked like a revolver again, so we tried to open it to prove clear. And it wouldn't open like a brake top. The cylinder wouldn't pop out like a conventional rifle. So we jumped on Googlebox and had a look for handguns that had that design. It's manufactured by Merwin and Hubert. The one claim to fame person that used it was Frank James of the Jesse James train robbers. So it's late 1860s is when it was built. The way it works, there's a latch underneath. You push that latch, the barrel then turns clockwise. You can then pull the barrel forward, the pistol part back to extract your rounds. It's a double action revolver in the 1860s. Once again, Merwin and Hubert got bought out by its competitors because it was a good product. Yes, so it's fairly rare in this area. There could have been a lot of them made, but yes, it took some thinking.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I'd also like to point out Lithgow, small arms factory. Lithgow's a beautiful town at the base of the Blue Mountains, and it was about 1913 they were opened up to manufacture firearms for the Australian war effort. During the quiet periods in time, they also manufactured things like Singer sewing machines and Sunbeam mix masters and tools for roofing. So it's just another case of when we're not busy making war munitions, we'll make other things as well.
Wow.
Lithgow's small arms factory is still making firearms for the civilian market today, and they've given them technical names like LA101 and LA102 and 105s and Woomeras. The 101, 102 and 105 were introduced 101 years after the factory opened, 102 years after the factory opened, and 105 years have a happy birthday. That's where they got their naming from.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
I've got an LA105.
Yep.
Which is the Woomera 6.5 Creedmoor.
Cool. Do you know what a Woomera is? Do you know why it's called Woomera?
No idea.
That's where we launch rockets from in South Australia, but I think more importantly, an Aboriginal Woomera is what they use for launching their spears. It has been scientifically proven to give so much more effort and muscle to the spear. So you've got a spear thrower, so hopefully you shoot Sierra projectiles through it because I don't sell spear bullets. But yes, that's what a Woomera is, and that's where the Lithgow's got their current name from. And if you ever get a chance to have a look at, you're in the Lithgow area, go and have a look at Lithgow Small Arms Factory and Museum. It's an awesome place.
Yeah, that's on our bucket list.
Yes, Australian made and proud of it.
That was the one thing when I was like, I'm getting a rifle and I'm getting it one for me. My first requirement was it had to be Australian.
Yes.
And yeah, as soon as I saw the as soon as I saw the signature series, I couldn't unsee it.
Yes, and once you've had quality, it's hard to go back.
Yes.
I still have one thing I really
Yes.
need to point out to you guys before you finish. It's usually the end of the tour for most folk because it's near the door. But to me, it's an important part of Australian history. And if I may take the opportunity now.
Go for it.
It's not a firearm. It's the one thing in here that's not a firearm that's important. It is this design. World War I was essentially trench warfare. So to be able to shoot at the other guys, you had to stick your head up above the trench to engage the opposition. Lance Corporal William Beach is given credit for coming up with this design. Now please note, this is one of the more complicated, complex, intricate versions of these I've ever seen. It involves their standard .303 rifle, 2 shaving mirrors, and a shoelace. The soldier would then mount the top of it up onto the trench, looking into the 2 mirrors. It's designed for accuracy, not precision. You would make sure that your projectile just whizzes over the top of the other guy's trench, because if you've ever served time in the butts at a range, you know what a projectile sounds like as it travels over. They would shoot, they would dismount, they would reload, they'd go back up and re-engage. Now there was at least one scenario where we had an entire trench line of these things set up on sandbags so they would be freestanding. They had a billy can up on top. Billy can's a tin that you boil water in for billy tea. They had a small ledge on one side that had a pannikin. Pannikin's a tin cup that we drink out of. The pannikin would be tied up to the trigger in one form or another. The billy can would drip either water or sand slowly and irregularly. When the pannikin gets heavy enough, it would fall off its lodge and it would pull a shot. Can only fire one shot because it's a bolt action. But one rifle would fire up there, one rifle would fire down there. We'd dedicate a young runner to go and reset the firearms. So they're shooting automated. We did a retreat. We're still spitting hatred at those guys. They're keeping their head down. It wasn't until the guns went cold that they come over and found out we're off and running. There was nobody left in the trench by the time they got there.
Aussie ingenuity.
Thank you very much. You have a nice day. Yes. That and the Hills Hoist clothesline. 2 Australian inventions that we all should have.
That happened in the Legria.
Certainly did. Yes. Yeah. And the important thing for everyone, this is the complicated version of it. So if you come up with an idea that you think is good, please don't think that, oh, if I can think of it, somebody else has, or it's not complicated enough. That's not true. If you can come up with an idea, you run with it.
There's got to be more of that ingenuity. I've
Yes.
had this idea. I'm going to give it
Yes.
a crack. There's
Yes.
got to be more of that. We've got to back our young people. Soapbox moment. We've got
Yes.
to back our young humans
Yes.
who are at the forefront of creating whatever to back themselves, and if they've got an idea,
Yeah.
back themselves,
Yeah.
run with it.
And if you think a design needs to be complicated, have a look at a paper clip. Where would we be without a paper clip? And
So
how
true.
basic is that?
So true.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So if someone wanted to come and have a look through the museum,
Yes.
is that something that people can do?
Our shop hours are 9 till 5 Monday to Friday and 9 till 4 on Saturdays. Please note, it's not a quick tour and we will kick you out at knock-off time. So yes, the museum is open whenever the shop is. We do groups, just give us a bit of notice if you're bringing a number of people down so we can make sure that somebody is available.
Yep.
But yes, we appreciate people coming in. Thank you.
So I just think that like the wealth of knowledge that you've just imparted on us in this short time now, the more people that can see, and it's the things that you've seen on TVs or in magazines or whatever.
Fortnite, apparently. Yes, that's where a lot of our kids know the modern stuff from, like the MP5 and the P90.
I heard that from Call of Duty and WWII game called Pavlo.
There we go.
But seeing them actually in person, it's completely different to TV or magazines or whatever. Like you can actually get the sense, the essence of and the history of that item.
I
Thank
really
you.
like the big collection of these
I don't, because we were hoping to sell them. That's a sad part of our history. Like when you got drunk at the party, it's the sort of thing you don't talk about. Yes, their history is that.
Alright, what a cracker of a day that's been. Have you had a good time?
Yep.
What was your favourite?
Well, probably looking around the museum and
Yeah.
then getting to fire that gun. It was pretty cool.
What did you fire?
The Genesis
And what calibre?
308.
Yeah. How loud was that?
Pretty loud.
And you done it in the test tank. So that's one of the rifles that you got to test before it gets sent out to its new home. So fantastic.
So, yeah, thanks again for watching right to the end. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Now, Owen Guns have been absolutely amazing with us today. The museum tour has been absolutely eye-opening. The history and the time that they've spent going through all of the really awesome items that you guys have just watched certainly was an education for me. There is the opportunity, as Jason was saying, for you to come and go through the museum as well. So if you're in Gympie, definitely a must come and do. If you are new to the firearms industry, if you're just getting into it, they have got an absolute plethora of rifles. Some of them even start from $50. It's insane. So a definite must come and see on everyone who loves history, who loves firearms, who loves sporting, who loves anything to do with it. Definitely come and check out Owen Guns. The staff here are amazing and really, really knowledgeable. They've all been doing it for a really long time. So get in and come down and see Owen Guns. Let them know that Gun Traders sent you. But thanks very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next